Hello, this is Venetia Ramsey from Scrapworks, and welcome to our third workshop in our It's the Season online event. I'm going to carry on working with this brand new collection of ours, and what I'm going to work with is everything that's left over. I have already dug through my supplies and selected some items that I'd like to work with, but I'll keep everything close on hand in case I need a little extra, something to add. So I like to separate my goodies into little containers, and then I have all the offcuts, the pattern papers left over. I've still got some of the patterns, the cut parts left. I have the grey board pieces that I didn't use the trees anywhere in the layouts, but I have kept them to use them to make the cards. So we're going to make 6 cards today. So what you would need are the 6 card bases. Okay, I've already made the 3 cards, but I've just cut cardstock to measure 10 centimeters down, allow 15 centimeters down, and 20 centimeters across. Then just folded it in half, so I have a 10 by 15. And you can make them as big or as small as you like. Right, and we're going to be making 6 cards. I've already pre-made 3 of them so that we have something to follow. Okay, so there's the 3 cards we're going to be making, and we're going to, what I like to refer to, use my little recipe. So we're just going to replicate each one, but by using different pattern paper, different embellishments to get a different effect. But I've chosen to do 2 portrait and 1 landscape, so that's what we're going to be doing. I also like to work on a card base. So I cut a piece of cardstock to measure 11 by 16, and I work on that, and then I cut it down to the size that I'm going to need to put on my card front. If you're a little bit braver, you can work directly onto the card front if you prefer. Okay, I just cut it down to 9.5 by 14.5 to fit my card front. Okay, so we're going to repeat this one. I've already selected the items that I want to use, so I cut that out. You know that it comes on that little red goodie. I've cut that piece out. I have this present left over. I have the word Happy Holidays left that we can use somewhere. I have this Christmas tree. I'm going to pop them all over here. So these, and I thought I'd put Happy Holidays underneath here like that. Okay, and then I've cut myself little squares that measure 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. I just cut out a whole stack of patterns that kind of coordinate. So basically I've got a solid green, a solid red, the green, another green, and then this one's got some red and green in it, and this one has all the different colors in the greens, browns, and grays. So I have all that. For this one I only used the stripe, the dot, the red, and this other spotted one, and for this one I'm using a little bit of a different one. So one of the things I will do is, because I know that I'm going to cut this down, and I know that I want to cut it down to 9.5, I will just make a little border so that I know more or less where I need to work in, and it doesn't have to be what would you call it? The border around doesn't have to be the same, but my space, when I draw my line now, I'll show you. The space from this line to this line needs to be the 9.5, just so that I have an idea of where I'm going, and I know that going down my card is going to be 14.5, so I'll measure 1 centimeter from the top, and then I know 14.5 over there, and then I just kind of work in that space. And it might seem a bit of a clumsy way, but it works for me, especially when we're going to be doing this mosaic type of effect on the card. Right, so I know that I need to work, this part here needs to fit in over here. So all we're going to do with this is we're going to I'm going to start this slightly over the line. We're just going to put the little squares, create a little pattern with the squares. See now, if I can see that I need to shift them over slightly so that the outside ones, you see on the lines there, the outside ones we're going to trim off just slightly. So there's those 5. I'm going to start with this one now. I'm going to pop it over here, and I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to pop that over there, and I think we can put a stripe over here so that it's not a green on a green. We can maybe even then swap this one. That might look a bit better. Yes. So you've just got to place your goodies, your little tiles, that's what I'll call them, where you think they're going to look the best. And I think let's move it like this. I think we'll put a solid red over here. Okay, there we go. And then we can maybe start with the dot, and down here we don't have let's see, a stripe, and instead of having my stripe run across, I can have this one run down. In this dotted line we can do this, and then we can add this one here, and that looks good. And then we can bring another red one. We don't have a red one in this line. Okay, then I also know that this greatest is going to go over here, so I don't really have to bring it all the way down. I think just for this I'll add it. Let's just keep going and see. We can always move things out the way later. There we go. I think that looks a little bit better. That one over there. In this line we don't have one of these. Okay. In this line we have that we don't have a dot. There we go. And then, like I said, this is going to go over here. So I think what I'm going to do then is just put these to go around it like that. I know I want that over there. I just want to be sure that I'm going to get it all covered. And let's put a stripe over here. Dot and a solid. Whoops. Like that. Over here I think we could do with another one of stripe. We'll have the stripe running across. And what should we put here? Maybe this one. Alright, so it has moved a little bit, but I know that once I've got everything in place, this is going to cover up that gap, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. So my plan then is to stick all of that in place. I'm going to have the Christmas tree come out from behind there with the Christmas tree with a gift, so that it looks like it's underneath the tree, like that. And then the happy holidays over here. Right, so those are my leftovers, enough to make another card. Just going to put those aside. So there's more than enough for me to be able to mosaic another background to make another card. So you're not restricted to just one card. So on this part, I put my squares all the way down just up to here, and then I've put a full piece of pattern paper here, and then another piece of pattern here. So if you don't have to bring your squares all the way down, you can break it with some pattern paper, but I thought on this one the little mosaic effect around would look really nice all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to put glue on everything and stick everything in place, and I will see you in a bit. So once I have everything stuck in place, I've made sure that I've bumped everything up nice and close, that there are no gaps. But if there is a gap here and there, one of the ways to fix that would be to stitch around the edges. Now I know I'm going to have to come back in and do it again, but I need to do this stitching before we put the next layer of pattern paper on. And basically I'm just going to stitch with a black gel pen around each and every square. Okay, so I'm just going to do the first row with you, and then I'll speed it up, but just so that you can see where we're going with this. And then once I've cut this to size, I'll go back in and do the edges and the top, the sides and the top and the bottom. Right, but just so that you can see where we're going with this. If you're brave, you can actually just put it through your sewing machine, and it'll probably be a different effect. It'll have a little bit more texture to your page. So I'll just go around all the squares like that, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we're just going to attach this little piece here. I'm going to make sure that it's just up from that, so I can see that whole thing. I've centered it in the page. Yeah, just remember I'm going to trim it there and there, so I want to make sure it fits in there. Okay, and then now I can see that I can actually, where I can carry on with my stitching. And put a nice line across the bottom here, even though I know I'm going to put a sentiment there, just for the little pieces that do stick out. It's all about the details. So I want the Christmas tree to go in behind here. Let's see if we can have as much of it almost to the top, so like that, and then the little present come in a little bit, and maybe have the little leaf overlap a bit. It looks, there we go. I think that's going to look pretty good. And then the little sentiment, happy holidays, go in over there, and I would go around that with a white gel pen just to make it stand out a little bit more. Right, and then now I have already made the marks, so I know exactly where to trim my page or my card base. So I've got the little mark sticking out the top. I'll just pop that into the paper trimmer and trim that off. There we go. Same on this side. There we go. So I just want to make sure that it's 14.5, because remember I want to have it on my page, on my card base, so that I have that white frame. So we're just going to slide that in, put it at 14.5 and trim, and then 9.5, because my card base is 10 centimeters, and trim. And then that is what we're left with. So this I could have centered just slightly more, but it's not the end of the world. It's still going to look really good. Okay, then I will go, now that I've trimmed everything off, I'll go around the edges with ground espresso distress oxide. I like to bump it up against my mat. Makes it easier for me to pick the ink up on. And then I always keep a little, this is from the Tim Holtz Glass Media Mat, my spare one. And I just keep that so that I have a place to ink. I stick it on my mat with a piece of masking tape at the top, so that if I need more space to be able to cut and work onto my self-healing mat, I can just lift it up out the way. I'll show you what I mean now. So if I needed to use the space, I just lift it up and put it out the way, and then I can always bring it back in for later. Right, so all we need to do now is just finish up those few little stitches to go all the way around the card, just to finish it off properly. So my stitching, I go backwards and forwards, so I can get quite a bit of ink, and the stitches can look pretty uniform. There we go. And then this side, the same thing. And there you go. And then I would also, again, it's personal preference, I'd like to make this stand out a little bit more. I think it's just going to make everything pop and give a little bit of definition to the sentiment. A nice solid line all the way around. And I think I got everywhere. Okay, so once we're finished with all the stitching and happy that we've got everything in place, because I tend to get everything I work with in the ink, I'll just put that out of the way and then take one of the card bases. Right, we're just going to attach this to the card base. If you prefer to use tape, you can do that. I just like to use the glue because it gives me a chance to position it if I haven't got it on quite straight. So I just want to get the same amount of space at the top, sides and the bottom, and also get it on straight. So that looks pretty straight and correct. Open it up and then just burnish everything in place. All right. So there we go, that's your first one done. Same approach, a very different effect. Okay, so that's card number 1 done. Then we will do card number 2. This is the recipe. Alright, I already have my little goodies that I've chosen that I'd like to use. So I have a piece of pattern paper. I'll measure it for you. This measures 10 by 8.5, and another piece of pattern paper also measures 10 by 6.5. That's going to go at the top, and then this is 1/2 centimeter. This little stripe will go across over here. I think maybe we'll swap it around. We'll do the bigger piece at the top and the little piece at the bottom, and that can run across like that. Okay, and then we can have, I've got some more little sentiments. I think that'll look good there, and we can carry on with the Christmas tree theme. We can put one there, we can put this over there to overlap, and then just bring in the little bow over here like that. I might even just move it up just a tiny little bit and over. So that's my plan for there. I'm going to make the lines on my card again that I want to be able to trim off. Okay. So I'm measuring 1 centimeter from the top, 15.5, and then drawing those lines. I know most people work the other way, they work to have overlap. I find this works better for me. Right, so if we have a look at this, okay, I have a smaller piece at a strip at the top, a pattern at the top, another piece of pattern, and then a piece of pattern here and here. So basically I took a pattern to fill up the space. I matted the sentiment onto brown cardstock and raised it, and then I put little banners here with best wishes. This I think works just fine the way it is. I'm not even going to mat that because it's on that light cardstock. It just offsets it really nicely. So we're just going to attach everything. I think what I'll do is put some glue on these while I do everything else, and then it's easy enough. It gives it time just to dry tacky. So you'll see I always put glue at the bottom. That then gives me an option to be able to add some foam squares behind if I want to raise a little part, if I feel that I need to have certain parts of it raised, and I'm still able to slide a little foam square behind there. Okay, so we're going to stick our pattern paper number 1 first. So this is the one that measures, I think it's 10 by 8.5. Right. I'm going to attach it so that it overlaps slightly like that. Okay, as long as I get it straight. There we go. Then we can add the bottom one. Time for a new glue, I think. Alright. So I'm going to put this flush against that one. And then I'll put a bead of glue across here. And attach this. Again, get it pretty straight. Alright, let's see. Okay, so while this, I wouldn't put it through the paper trimmer now because it needs a little bit of time for the glue to bond and to dry. Okay, so once the glue is dry, we can then trim it. Again, we'll just put this one through the paper trimmer. I'll do this, I'm going to do this one before I add all the embellishments, so that I don't put the embellishments in the wrong place again, so that I get it pretty centered. Okay, so I'm just making sure that that's 9.5. There we go. And I want to make sure that it's 14.5. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then again, just a little bit of ink around the edges, like that. And I'll draw the lines. Remember, drawing lines around is totally optional if you don't like it. Inking and drawing lines is an optional step. I think it is a personal preference. I'll bring mine down here as well. But I do think that it finishes the card off really nicely. Alright. So we will attach this one first, decide your placing. We're going to have it slightly up to the top like that, right? And then this time I'm going to have the tree overlap. So I'm going to have it just a little bit down like that maybe. And then add the little candle think we can even bring it over a little bit, like that. Maybe like that. I think that looks a little bit better. Yeah, and then we can just pop this little bow in over here to finish it off. So it creates a nice little cluster all the way around. Right, and then I'm just going to draw a line around my sentiment. You could mat this one if you wanted to, but like I said, I didn't think that it needed it. There we go. So now we need another card base to mat onto, and then that'll be the second one done and dusted. Let's get it lined up pretty centered. We want the same amount of space, left, right, top, bottom. You just eyeball it. There we go. Open that up. Make sure everything is in place. Right, so there we go. There's the two cards using the same recipe with just a bit of a different outcome. Okay, so instead of, here's basically where I've embellished 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's a sentiment and a sentiment. Pattern paper, I used 3 patterns here, and here I used 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's those two done. Right, then for the last one, we're going to do this one. It's a landscape one, and again, I've already chosen what I want, the pieces that I want to use, and also already drawn my lines because I don't think you need to watch me do that again. So my plan is to attach this one kind of in the middle like I did here. I put this in the middle here. I cut some pattern paper. This one I cut broader than this one, and then I put a little bow on the 25 with best wishes. So in this case I've got the joy. I'm going to center it like that, and I'm going to put the candy stripe there and there. Right, and then I thought to put that bow on the joy like we've done over there, and then just add a little bit of some more Christmas trees and a present in over here like that, you know, just to work with the little image that's there already. Okay, I'm going to put some glue on everything, and we're going to stick it in place, cut it up. So there we go, just a little bit behind there, some glue at the bottom of this present, some glue at the bottom of the Christmas tree. So all those little bits and pieces that you've got left over, this is the perfect way, I think, to use them up. Right, let's get this in. So I'm thinking that maybe I'd like to, for this one, I want to have the same amount of space. Instead, you know, that's a big stripe and a small stripe. It's kind of off-centered. I could get away with that because of, you know, because of the rule of thirds. I can make it a bit heavier that side. With this one, the image is pretty centered, so I want to try and have the same amount of space on either side. Looks like that will do. Okay, so we can just burnish that in place. And even if it's not 100% the same, it's not the end of the world. I'm just going to add some glue to this one and attach it flush against this pattern. Oops. And push it flush against there. And the same with this one. give that a good burnish. Right, and then that's going to go through the paper trimmer again. I have my little line there to guide me for my first cut. There we go. I'm going to turn that and take it to 9.5. Right. I think we'll cut it about there. Looks right. Yes. And then 14.5. I think maybe we'll take it in. Yeah. There we go. I didn't wait long enough for it to dry. So you see, if you don't let the glue dry, take the time to let it dry, it's going to scrunch up your paper. That's okay, I'll fix it. So whether I like it or not, I'm going to have a big piece this side and a small piece that side. It's bad measuring, but I don't mind. Either way, it's still going to look good. Just add some more ink around the edges here. And then we can add the Christmas tree in. Maybe bring it down just a tiny little bit. Yeah. With the present. I think we'll have the present go over again instead of under. Or maybe what does it look like under? No, I think on top is better. Like that. And then the bow. It's too much glue. That's better. Right, and then we'll do the lines. You could draw lines or stitch, either way is fine. For this one, I'm just going to do on around the joy sentiment. I'm not going to do on the diagonal lines, the candy stripe lines. I think that works just fine. We'll need another card base. Okay. Right, and then you just want to make sure that your card's opening the right way. Center this. There you go. Happy with that. Right, so there's the recipe and the result. Okay, same concept, different outcomes. So that'll give you 6 cards to be able to give as a gift. So I will, that one goes with that one comes here. I would do it this way. Right. So I then made envelopes to go with it. I've embossed mine, but you don't have to. I only embossed mine halfway. I've left this plain, and I would like to probably add some stamping or some more pattern paper to that. But we need to make 6 envelopes to go with the cards, and I used my punch board envelope maker to do that. So these will slide in like that. Okay, and then I just use normal printer paper to do that. You will need to cut your a piece of paper to measure 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. I like 20.5 by 20.5. Just cut a square. And then the punch board tells you for the size card that you want, what size the paper should be and where you need to put it. I'm making mine just slightly smaller because this gives a 21 centimeter mark. So it says to slide it in at 3 3/8, which is over there. So you can then punch that and then find your groove to make your score line. Okay, then once you've done that, all you need to do is turn it and line this little pointer up, punch and score, and the same thing. And if you just keep lining it up with that score line, you'll end up with the right size envelope. If you don't have one of these and or you do have one of these and it's too much hard work, you can always just purchase the right size envelopes. Okay, so once you've done that, you're just gonna fold this over on those score lines. Okay, I like to tack it in place, and I find it easier to get a straight line if I turn it over like that. And the same with this one, we'll just tack it in place. I can turn it over because then I can see if I've got it straight. Same here. You don't have to make the envelopes with paper. You can easily use cardstock as well if you want a bit of a heavier envelope. If I was sending this through the post, I would make it out of heavier cardstock. But because I'm going to just put these in as a gift and they're going to be hand delivered, I can get away with doing it like this. Right, so then we can just make a mark. You can leave this little piece on if you want to. I prefer to cut it off. And then you can put some glue or tape over here and then just attach it in place. Okay. I would suggest that you actually use tape instead of glue, because the glue will ruffle your envelope a little bit. And then you can round the corners of your envelope or leave them pointy. It's entirely up to you what you would like to do. But that is then the envelopes made. So that'll give you 6 envelopes for your cards. And like I said, I put mine through an embossing folder, just this dot. I don't know if you can see it on here. There's just a dot. So it's embossed on the side and then obviously recessed on the back, and I don't mind that. Okay. And then this now gives me I think there's 6 envelopes for my cards. And I want to give it as a gift, so I figured I would just put a little bit of ribbon around the cards itself to make it pretty. Okay. I first tied it around the envelopes and the cards, but it just didn't look right, so I figured I would just put it around the cards. And we can make a nice bow. Where are my reverse tweezers? They would come in handy now. You can always find them except when you need them. There they are. Okay, so we can then put the cards together. I can shift the little bow over like that. I thought that would look really nice. But now, because I want to make these and give them as gifts, I'm like thinking, so you can't exactly do it I was just going to do it like that, but then I thought, well, it might actually look better if we just put it in a box. So I made a little box out of craft, some craft paper, and what I did is I've given it a little acetate frame. So you have the option to leave this step out, but this then fits inside here really, really perfectly, closes it up, and then your card also becomes the showcase or the advertisement for what's inside there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through on how we made that.